Hello, my friend Asaf. Hello, Chris behind the
Hello.
scenes.
Hello,
Hello
everybody.
to all the
Hello.
friends who are with us live. And hello to all the friends who will see us sometime in the future. Well, uh, here we are again at the Great Transition, where we look at what is going on in the world through the lens of the wisdom of Kabbalah. Who would have thought that we would have gotten an armed conflict in 2021? It turns out that 2021 has so many interesting news stories. They just don't stop. It's like in your life when you start, okay, like I got my health down. Okay, crap, now I got a problem with bills. Okay, I got my bills together. Okay, now I have an issue with the relationship. Okay, I got the house together, I got the bills together, I got the relationship together. Oh God, I got a problem with my car. It's like,
Right.
it's
It's a
just some
whack-a-mole
system.
game.
So whack-a-mole game. So here we are. We're looking at the world, what's going on in the world through the lens of the wisdom of Kabbalah. One of the primary goals in engaging in the wisdom of Kabbalah, one of the first serious milestones, is understanding. And okay, it's more than understanding. Understanding is kind of easy. You can get a few examples. You could read a few pages, and even if it's new, it's kind of understandable. But to start to feel the true nature of the human being, it kind of takes years because you can hear about it. You can even start to agree with it,
Mm-hmm.
but until you start to really feel it and come to terms with it, that what we're made of and what the results of that are, that's a very serious reckoning
Right.
for a student on the path of the wisdom of Kabbalah. And I hope that one of the results of this Afghanistan situation that we will start to see, meaning that everyone in the world will start to see more and more, and a lot of people know already, but just what liars all politicians are. And it's just as almost like this whole thing in a sense is um, to look at the world, to look at the things that are happening, not just like
Mm.
through not just through the headline. Although we're looking at headlines, we're taking stories and kind of deconstructing, using them as excuses almost to get into deeper kind of things. But one of the things that we can really see here, like for example, if you have a young daughter, Saf, I know you do. You have a couple young kids, right?
Yeah, I have two daughters actually. Two
You have two
daughters and
daughters.
one son.
Yes.
Isn't it? It's still surprising to me that I have two daughters. Anyway, go ahead. Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
if you were gonna go take them away for a few days to a nice place, okay,
Right.
and you get there and you get to the front desk and someone at the hotel says there's a there was a crime in the hotel, and hold on a second. There's a crime in the hotel, or there's a problem with whatever. So you and your wife would look at each other, and you would communicate probably without saying anything, and then you'd pick up your kids and be like, "Okay, guys, let's go get some ice cream or something." The story that the little ones get would not, of course, be the story that the adults would get.
You're right. I wanna I wanna counter it, but I won't because I wanna let you continue with the
Okay,
flow.
so
Um,
the story that we get about what's
yeah.
really happening, we have
Mm-hmm.
no real idea of what's really happening. If somebody's going to invest $1 trillion or a few $1 trillion and spend a few decades,
Mm.
there's a lot more going on. We're just like the little tiny children whose parents take us somewhere. We don't know where the food is coming from when they feed us. We don't know how the car is getting where it's, you're 5 years old, you're in the back of the car, you're going to visit grandma. You don't know
Mm.
where the fuel comes from. You don't know where the next gas station is. You're not even thinking about these things. That's
Right.
how we are in relation to these world events. But what we should start to see is that just that we don't really have any idea what's going on, and they're all lying to us. And the good
Mm.
benefit, the good benefit about that is we have to start to understand something fundamental about our world and events. Let's kind of separate ourselves from the
Wait,
fact
wait.
that
So you're saying politicians are liars? That's That's what
Oh,
you're.
I'm talking about human nature. I'm talking about a student who comes to the wisdom of Kabbalah, what he discovers about himself. But I'm saying now we're looking at this
Hmm.
example of a world event, and we could have picked any world event, but this one's very, very clear
Hmm.
just how much we're not really told what's actually going on. We really don't know the motivations. I mean, maybe the motivation of it,
Right.
okay, for example, we don't want to even get into too much of the details, how what kind of military things were left there. Were they left there on purpose? Who's going to come in? By the way, in Afghanistan, there's all these different kind of minerals or whatever they are that are needed for the
Yeah,
next level
lithium,
of
I think. Also
space
drugs.
technology.
There's a huge uh
More than 90% of the world's opium comes from
opium.
from
There you go.
Afghanistan.
Yeah,
So right,
opium.
so
Right. Yeah.
so much going on behind the scenes that we have no idea about. This is, we're just shown the movie. Um,
Right.
so okay, so first of all,
Okay.
we need to understand something fundamental about human nature.
Hmm.
Humans, meaning us, monkey plus as we call ourselves here, we don't do anything unless we see a way to exploit other people. But this has been kind of more or less concealed, right? Because we lived kind of more like animals, like you couldn't really say that people 1,000 years ago were really exploiting each other. It was more like a lion. If he needs to eat something, he does it. If he needs to do it in a little bit of a sneaky way, he does it in a little bit of a
Yeah.
sneaky way. But today, we don't move. Like we
Hmm.
don't start a business unless we think of how we're going to extract something from someone else. Doesn't matter what it is. I'm going to
Yeah.
import organic coconuts and I'm going to make my whole town healthy from organic coconuts. But I got to figure out by the time it actually
You got to
happens
figure out your
between
return on investment, and you got to make sure that it's
exactly,
profitable
exactly.
enough to even make a move. And you might have a great dream, but if it's not profitable, you're not going to do it. You're not going to be able to
Right.
do
And
it. You already live in such a culture where every move you make has to be calculated for maximum profit. And if it doesn't, you're not going to be able to make it. That's just life today. Yeah.
and so it's worthwhile to I hope that there's people who are listening right now who are saying, "No, Seth, you're wrong. I'm not like that." I hope that
Yeah.
you're saying that right now. And I would ask you to look at yourself and try to see, because you know what happens when you go out into the street and you tell people like, I'm a peaceful person. What are you talking about? Of course I'm a peaceful person. Of course I want peace. But if we start to discover what's driving us, we don't write anything to anyone, say anything to anyone, start any businesses unless we see what we're going to get out of it.
Forget
Okay?
that. How about blinking or just moving nodding your head or
But
just,
blinking and nodding your head doesn't hurt anyone else.
right. But it's always, but it's just, absolutely right. But it's an extension of the same calculation. So the same calculation that makes our body molecules move, and the same calculation that makes us move our head and our hands and our legs in a certain way, the exponential calculation in the same direction is us making actions towards each other. But that's where we begin to profit, to calculate our profit against someone else's loss. That's where ego becomes a reality. That's where human nature in its unique ego shines above all other animals in nature. Yeah.
So this is a, a serious milestone. It sounds so like just like an extra on the side, but it's such a serious milestone in the wisdom of Kabbalah. Bala Sulam even spends one of his serious introduction articles into the wisdom, explaining that the purpose of this wisdom is one of this fundamental pillar
Yeah.
is to first understand who we are, because if we don't start, otherwise you're standing on like you want to sail across the ocean and you're standing on like a sponge, and then once you get who you are, as
Yeah.
painful as it is, but now it's not really painful actually. It's painful, but it's not, because now you can cure. You're on the way towards of
Mm-hmm.
understanding what's going on. How, and by the way, this is how I was made by the creator. I don't have any
Yeah.
responsibility in that. Also, that's another whole thing. See, the whole thing, and we see a lot of mental illness because people are constantly obsessed with what they're thinking and how they're thinking and all these things.
Mm-hmm.
And to just not take responsibility for all of the things that the creator, that nature is doing, and
Yeah.
only just try and find that small area in my life that I'm actually responsible for.
Yeah. You
If I
said,
have
yeah, go ahead.
if I have crazy sexual thoughts, if I have crazy thoughts about violence, if I have something and I could obsess about it or someone could think this about me, I woke up, I just wanted to do good today. I just wanted to like have a good day. I wanted to like take care of my family. I don't know. I was driving and this thought came into my head. I don't even know why. Now I'm taking responsibility. Who am I? What am I? Or someone else, he needs to then try and follow each and every one of these thoughts. Right. And he spends, years trying to figure out how he's going to fulfill some thought that we what happens when we start to come to the wisdom of Kabbalah is we really start to understand what it means. Like, who am I? What did the creator make?
Mm-hmm.
And where in this can I
Well,
activate something and do something?
the creator is also something that needs to be, that you need to get your head around in terms of
Okay, let's just
how to define that correctly. But let's put it
let's
aside for now.
yeah,
Yeah.
let's just for the sake of the conversation, let's say that on all the way on one end is me that won't do anything unless he can exploit someone else, get some benefit out of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just a total minus
Yeah.
to the nth degree. Let's call the creator the total plus to the nth degree. All the way on the other side, just giving, just loving. What's going, these systems in between, we'll deal with that. So,
Yeah.
and I hope, I don't know if Chris, if you can check, or I don't know, maybe I could check. I hope people are at least getting annoyed or frustrated or confused a little bit about what we're saying. Um, so this whole world, this whole physical world is just to convince us, just so that we start to understand this concept. Asaf, what is this thing that we need to have? Why do we need to have all of this kind of, why do we keep having to reveal these bad things if we just want to keep going towards good? I came to the wisdom of Kabbalah. I just want to reveal the creator. I just want to know the purpose of my life. I just want there to be love. I just, whatever reason I came, I want to know
Mm.
what happens after I die. And all of a sudden, I start to discover myself. Or we want the world to be good. We're finally trying to think maybe COVID, we're and all of a sudden now these people are coming back. Well, do we belong there? I don't know. We don't belong there, but whether or not we belong in Afghanistan or we don't belong in Afghanistan, why are they chopping the hands off of people? And why are little girls being taken as brides? And like, what is this kind of, why are we seeing this now? What are we being
Yeah.
shown? It always existed.
You
What are we all being shown on the,
you just threw into one mix so many different things here. But we have to be, we have to go from plus to minus to plus to minus to plus to minus. That's our development. That is how we grow. That is how consciousness is brewed in the pot of evolution, in the in the grand scheme of things, in this this sort of like frying pan on which we are cooking to become something, right? We have to constantly be flipped from one side to the other side, one side to the other side. And so this is what Kabbalists call the light excels from darkness, or the light excelleth darkness. I think it's from, you can find it in Ecclesiastes, I think, as well. Anyway, what it means is that the created being's perception can develop only through the experience of two opposites. What? Go ahead. Yeah.
no, I'm listening.
You were. I thought you wanted to say something. The so our Anything we feel, anything we sense, anything we experience has to be made up of two opposite things. There's no meaning to good without bad, plus without minus, hunger without satiation, thirst without saturation, bitter and sweet, truth and false. There is no way for us to develop any sense of anything without two opposites, and that there's a reason for that too. It originates from our very nature, because our nature is a nature of lack, of desire, of need. We are made up of as a vessel that wants fulfillment. That's why we can always sense the fulfillment from our lack, and that defines our nature and our being in probably the most fundamental way. The creator, on the other hand, meaning the governing force that created the the nature of the created being, is a nature of, like you said, complete plus. So I would say complete fulfillment. We have no concept of that. We just can't conceive of what such an existence is. What does it mean to just be to be in complete fulfillment?
I
Just
don't know. I
imagine
wake up in the
that.
morning.
Just
I wake
yeah.
up every morning and I'm like, oh God. And I try.
Our
I
whole
actually,
we don't feel anything if there's no lack. You don't feel that you're alive if you don't feel it through some lack, some need, some desire. It's in the nature of our senses too. Anything that we feel, even in our five bodily senses, as an extension of our spiritual nature. Our body works the same way. It constantly measures pressure from the outside, whether it's your taste buds, or your tactile sense, the retina in your eye, the eardrum. It always measures pressure, and then it translates the signals, the pressure that it feels internally as an experience, and that's how we create the picture of our entire world. I have no idea how you want to relate this to Afghanistan, though. so so tell me, where do you want to go with that? Yeah. Yeah, you're muted. Yeah,
okay.
okay.
I see the difference between, um, well, first of all, there's a couple different layers to this situation.
Mm,
When I see it, when I hear about it, I see, and I don't, we really have to stress again and again that, if we're sitting around and talking about things, we can get into, around a campfire or wherever, coffee shop. There's many, we'd have a lot of time. It, we don't specifically on this show do these different kind of deep dives of different things that are going on, but for example, there's many layers of for example, when the politician comes on the television and tells you one thing,
right.
and then the exact opposite happens, like, that's not just, oh, he's such an idiot. That's like
Hmm.
part of making everyone feel
Oh yeah.
unbalanced
Oh
on
yeah. I think
purpose.
that.
And
Don't you think that everyone by now understands
no,
this? Is it
I
just, yeah?
don't think that at all. No, I don't think that.
Really?
I think
At
people. I think
least.
the most of the narrative. I've been watching a lot of news shows and clips to see
Hmm.
what's going on and what they're saying, and most people are like, he's an idiot. How? Of course he should have known. Like, just the surface,
Yeah,
surface,
but
surface level.
even, yeah, I guess you're right. But I mean, okay. Here's what I think. I think that most people at least have a guess that what they're being told is a certain kind of optical illusion, let's say. I mean, literally, this is how, all these strategists are calling that optics. The leaders are they have there's what they need, there's what's happening, and then there's what they should say, and this is called optics. And this optics is being managed by media strategists and
There's,
experts and
there's
so on. Anyone who's, I mean, I in my uh, first year in university, I think we studied some international diplomacy of some sort. It was very obvious to the professors and everyone. We were talking about it openly, about how this is part and parcel of what politics is, like optics and all that. Um, so I think even if people are not, in thinking about it constantly, they have a feeling. They are, I think it's kind of obvious. Anyway, yeah.
Mm, not
But here,
sure
okay,
that
here's the bigger thing, though. Here's the bigger thing. I would say that politicians are all our leaders and so on. Forget liars. They too are pawns in a bigger game.
of
They
course.
and not just wait. What kind of bigger game? I'm not just talking about, uh, you know, if you turn on your conspiratorial mind and you think
Yeah, the
about
thousand ruling families and all that kind of stuff.
yeah, and the business interests and why did the US go to Afghanistan in the first place? Was it drugs? Was it oil? Was it lithium? Was it, like and there's one narrative that's like, that's kind of narrative, and then on top of that there's like the outside narrative of like, oh, did the US go to Afghanistan to install a democracy in a place where it's needed? There's all kinds of layers of narratives and stories that you can tell yourself and others about why things happen. But all of that too is just a superficial layer, because the bigger game that all of us and all the leaders and all the countries are pawns in is the forces of nature that are gradually shaping and evolving the created being, meaning all of us, the collective entity of humanity, is being molded and shaped in a certain way. And that's why things happen in the world ultimately.
So
Yeah,
this is a beautiful point here, and we can see some very clear examples. So nature, the creator, whatever we want to call it,
right.
is not bothered by time at
Oh,
all.
good point.
And not only that, that's really what we're talking about. The big layer, the
Yes.
big overriding conspiracy
Yeah, nature's
story,
conspiracy, right. Yeah.
nature's conspiracy to bring everyone to unity and love. Um, so for us, we have to, and Rabash does an amazing job of explaining this. We see everything sequentially
Yes.
in
In
our
our
perception.
our corporeal perception, yeah.
Right. We have to see everything sequentially. For nature, the creator, the big plan, it's all one system without this problem of having to do things sequentially. So,
Yeah.
what we're doing is we are taking each frame of the movie, and I don't even know if our audience understands what a frame is because everything is digital now, but you know,
Hmm.
like each kind of step of the show. And like for example, if I'm shooting a bow and I pull back and someone sees right here, they're like, "You're an idiot. You're moving your hand backwards. You want the arrow to go forwards."
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
So for
Hmm.
example, you take Hong Kong just to as an example. So the English made Hong Kong, the British Empire, whatever, made Hong Kong a
Right.
colony, whatever they made. And then 100 years later, I don't know the history so well, China comes in and says, well, that was ours and give it back. And the people that
Yeah.
were there,
Right.
Chinese people with thousands of years of Chinese culture,
Hmm.
presumably, said, no, we want to be like London now. So even though London was the colonizers.
Right.
So nature has this way. Now, if you can look over the course of, hundreds of years, or look at all of
And
South
I think
America.
similar you can find similar things in Africa with the French. Anyway, okay, yeah. It's a good
The,
example.
the point
Yeah.
is, nature uses this, again, it's called zivug in spirituality, but this kind of like in and out process
Mm-hmm.
which we know obviously corporeally, that's how things are born, through an in and out friction process. Nature uses this thing of like, like, boom, the British Empire comes in and colonizes another
Right.
country, and then like
Right.
leaves an imprint in there
Mm-hmm.
that then like takes on its own, and it mixes
That
these
that
two. Where,
changes the course of evolution for that culture.
and not to
For that.
say
Yeah.
that England is the force of the creator and China is the force. No, not just using it as an example, that you have in a sense like
Mm-hmm.
this plus and minus, and it
Yeah.
boom makes an imprint
Yeah,
and
no,
leaves,
no,
and that
it's more than than an example. This is the manifestation of the deeper program of nature playing itself out through any invasion, occupation, domination that we're seeing. Now, look, what I'm saying here could be problematic. Little disclaimer: where I'm not saying
good.
that I'm
I
not
like it when
saying
it gets
that
saucy.
yes, I'm not saying that this means that any occupation that happens, any invasion that happens, any war that happens is something that has to happen the way it happened. No, there's an element of free choice. There is an element of conscious participation in the process. But put that aside for a second. Put that aside for a second. What is the driving force that causes different peoples and different cultures and different nations and different countries to mix? It is a necessary action of the natural system. There's a purpose to that. Just as there is a purpose in the natural system in creating diversity. So on the one hand, nature, just like it does with species in nature, in the human family, in the global human family, nature gradually creates these individuated, specialized, separate, isolated, unique cultures and characteristics of people. People in the West look differently than people in the East. Cultures are different. What you eat in one place is the opposite of what you eat in another place. In one place you'll eat cockroaches and it's a great dinner treat, and in another place you need to participate in a survivor show and get paid $1 million to eat a cockroach. So nature creates this very very distinct differences between people and cultures, and it takes time, history. I mean, think about the Afghan people. This is a very ancient people, by the way, very ancient people, very smart, very experienced in transactions, and they have a whole history.
This whole thing is
And
so unique. They're almost like fair skin with like very European
mhm,
looking, even some of them. I don't know. It's very, very interesting.
very
This like
unique,
this whole
very
mix. Yeah.
every culture is unique, and there's a
It's like a Middle Eastern thing, but it's like, sorry, go ahead.
no, go
It's like
you're
it
yeah.
belongs to the Middle East, but it has these qualities of these other places. But it's,
Mhm.
um, no, I don't want to go down that road. Sorry.
Okay,
Go ahead.
okay. So go back to why, right? Because nature. Why does nature need different species? Why do we need to be? Why aren't we all just one man? Why
Hold
is
on,
it?
but try and tie everything
Yeah.
to this light excelleth from darkness, though, because this is it's gonna get us into this special
the
place.
the light excels from darkness that we talked about. It manifests in the evolution of human society as two opposite forces. One force is a force of individuation that creates diversity. It's why people develop in different places around the world with their own history and their own facial features and their own culture and foods and everything. It's why we have different distinct cultures. And the other force that's working is a force that is integrative, is a force that causes all of these different, distinct, unique cultures, unique nations and peoples to mix, to connect, to integrate. That is why we see this process. You can think about it like again, humanity is a superorganism. Think about it like a breathing process, like a breathing cycle. You have inhale and exhale. So if you look at history, you'll see this process of isolation and connection, and separation and integration, and it's constantly happening. And we need to become both very diverse and very different from
Wait a
each
sec.
other. Yeah, Chris, go ahead. Yeah.
Sorry, while you guys are talking about this, I don't know if you know about the anglerfish. I know we're talking about diversity and
Yeah.
and many different types of things in nature that we don't understand. There's a story. I'm going to show you this. There's
Okay.
probably some of the viewers understand it too. Listen to this or watch this. So this is an anglerfish, and for a long time, scientists didn't understand how it reproduced. They were First of all, it's really difficult to observe these things because they live thousands of meters, below the water.
What's the thing
But
that it
they
has in its front? It has like a
This is
thing
because
that's
it
sticking out.
yeah, this is a little light. It's like a little light bulb. It's a bioluminescent feature that it has because
Oh, cool.
it uses that to basically fish for itself. It brings its prey closer to it, so it doesn't have to use as much energy. It's amazing. First of all, the whole story of the anglerfish is really really interesting. But what they didn't understand is how it mated, and for the longest time we didn't understand until you see my mouse here. You see this little guy
Yeah,
over
yeah,
here.
I
It looks
see.
like a little like growth. Well, actually, kind of is. This is the male anglerfish. So scientists didn't understand it because it swims, it attaches itself to the side of the fish, and his mouth literally fuses and becomes part of the female, and its circulatory system
Now I
is now
really
one
want to
circulatory
Now I
system.
really want to know how it has
It's
to do with
it's
Afghanistan.
it's crazy. It's crazy. Wait, also you have to see how weird this thing is. Wait, this is the male. I don't want to play the video, but this is the male anglerfish. Look how small it is. And if you zoom, I guess if you go like this, but this is the female. So the male is like
Wow.
this small little doohickey on the side. You can see how small he is over there. Anyways, I thought that was an interesting example because it's like we have no idea. We don't understand nature.
Oh,
We don't
I see what you're
understand
saying.
the opposites coming together. We don't know how
Yes.
to use that.
Yes, the
Right.
connections.
So yeah, there you go.
How the piece. Good. Yes, if you. So Chris's associative mind is an asset here. So I would say that's a really cool point if you put these things together. We don't know how to connect, how those different opposite pieces of the puzzle, how they come together. It's a puzzle to us. That's the thing. So what's happening? We only see our urges. Oh, we need to make a good deal. Let's go over there. Let's take their oil. And then some country invades another country. But really, it's the forces of nature working to bring us to a correct connection that we can't find that zivug yet. We can't find that coupling yet. We can't find the way in which we actually need to consciously come together. And if you think about it, there is no such concept of opposites in our global politics, in global diplomacy, in international relations. There's no such concept of let's try to connect with another group of people, culture, or nation. It's always about, okay, can we do business? Can we do we'll have an agreement, like Israel just recently did this agreement with Dubai, right? So, that was just a worthwhile thing to do. So some tourism will benefit from that. Economics will benefit from that. The European Union, right? What's the European Union? If you go to the history, if you trace the history, it's literally a financial agreements. That's
How to
what
compete with the United States and China, probably.
in order to make an alliance, also to be bigger in the world, of course. So these are the calculations that we are familiar with because, like we started our show, we are a will to receive. We are constantly looking for how to make a benefit, how to make a profit. If it's not monetarily, then it's a different kind of profit. But it's always, it could be politically, could be militarily, and so on. It's always how to make a profit. Nature's calculation is how to make a whole. It's how to complete an evolutionary process that requires different pieces coming together in new and unique ways to create more complex levels of being. That's how the hydrogen and oxygen came together in a unique way called H2O to create water. Boom. A completely new thing many billions of years ago, that life couldn't emerge, next levels of life couldn't emerge without it, right? So similarly, humanity is developing all these differences because we are supposed to connect them in order to rise to a completely new collective level of consciousness. But we're just completely unaware of that goal, and we have
So
no idea
Walter,
how to do it. Yeah.
I see. Walter Z said so. Not asked a question. Not all thoughts are your own. Okay, so Walter.
Is there any thought? Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, so right. So, well, Walter, if by you mean all of humanity, then yes, it's your own. If by you mean that thought is yours, as in just this guy, this piece of protein called Walter Z, then no. So what that means is, like, let's try it like this. Zebras, giraffes, they find a mate, they live their zebra and giraffe life, and that's the beginning and the end, right? They don't have this desire in them, this thing that won't let them rest, that, like, why, what, this just thing that's driving them forward, that people here have. Not even, by the way, all of people who wear shirts every day have it. It's a small amount of humanity at this point that has this, although it's awakening. So when we, Walter, take all of our thoughts, all of these things, like, right, I have a thought about some violent thought or something, it doesn't belong to me so much. What it means is, of course it belongs to me. I'm looking in my mind and I see, me in that image, and I see someone else in that image, and I see some action taking place. But that's only because that's what society has kind of clothed on top of my feelings. Really, Walter, what happened was you were sent a feeling, you downloaded an emotion from the system, and then based on the movies you watched and the news you saw today and the things that you listened to, you clothed onto that feeling that you got. So the system gave you a feeling, and then from society you clothed onto it, you dressed onto it colors and shapes onto that feeling. So what we're doing in the wisdom of Kabbalah is giving ourselves new clothing to dress onto those emotions, so that the emotion itself, which led you to think of some violent thing or led you to think of some crazy thing, and wow, I'm ashamed of myself that I even think like that, like, how could I just want to be a good person. Why are these thoughts coming to my mind? This is coming because we didn't yet establish a society that feeds us proper education about what's actually happening, and then all of these desires that we have get clothed, correct, kind of, we make a correction on it, and then what it will actually be clothed in and what it will look like, we don't know yet, because that's our good future together, which we don't know. But here's the interesting thing: the giraffes and the zebras, or whatever we said before, they live their life, and they don't have this eternal, endless emptiness. But if we, as all of humanity, or at least just the small amount of us who are awakening to this, come together, our partner, okay, male lion and female lion are partners, right? And they continue the lion lineage. And male, plus a giraffe and minus giraffe come together, and they continue the lineage of giraffes. We are minus. When we come together with the plus, we make a spiritual kind of lineage. We continue we be born into spirituality. Our partner, not our protein partner. Our protein partner could be anybody, any shape, any size you want on this, protein level, animal level. We're not talking about that. But as far as spirituality goes, our spiritual partner is really what we call the creator or nature. That plus we become, and in order to, I'm not enough. My minus is not enough for all of that plus, but a big minus, a big evil. We call it an evil. We call it evil, meaning a big emptiness, which in the meantime is clothed in the clothes of, I'm going to say Taliban, but it's not Taliban. It's not, the Taliban guy doesn't think he's doing something wrong. And spiritually, maybe he's not, or maybe he is. He's controlled by the creator, just like Joe Biden's controlled by nature, just like I'm controlled by nature, just like we're all being controlled by nature. But if we, the ones who are conscious of it, the ones who are receiving this wisdom now, this education, can connect ourselves into a big conscious minus. I'm trying to relate it again to the light excelleth from darkness. I'm hoping you'll be able to help me out here. The more that it is a big minus, the partner of it is that big plus, and then we can be born into something that we all want. We don't even know what it is yet. You're sitting on you're sitting up in the balcony, like looking at me down there, saying, how's he going to get himself out of this one? You're supposed to jump. I don't hear you.
And now, how about now?
Now I hear you.
Okay.
That wasn't
right.
nice. You're just watching me.
No, it was fun. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, there's a lot of loose ends to tie here. Melissa Holden asked a couple of minutes ago, does the awareness of a choice actually make one bit of difference? First of all, hi Melissa. I noticed you typically write a lot in the comments of the show and everything. Very interesting things. Trying to keep track of it. So thank you. Great to have you live with us. So I don't know if that's exactly what you wanted to ask, because you already you took it in another direction, Seth. But I would say that awareness and consciousness and developing the sense of our conscious participation, our conscious choice, is exactly what nature is doing through these ins and outs, light and darkness, plus and minus. That's how you develop a creature. That's how you develop consciousness. That's how you develop a created being. In Kabbalah, this is called the entrance of the light, and its departure qualifies the Kli to be fit for its purpose.
Okay, so hold on. Just take that exact same sentence, but say it in like very simple language with no terminology. Just
the experience of fulfillment and lack thereof builds the sense in the created being of itself and the force that governs it. That process of fulfillment and lack thereof, entrance and departure of the light, plus and minus, light and darkness, that it's not one of these states that is required. It's the frequency of the dynamic changes between them. And that's, by the way, that has to do with also, think about electricity, right? Electricity, electrons flowing from minus to plus in an electric circuit. This is what creates movement, creates life. So this is what's needed. And that's why we're seeing these processes. So what just happened, after 20 years, this superpower, the US, goes out of this place, and yes, there's a politics of it, and and all the blah 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 in the news and all that. But the deeper thing that's happening is humanity is going through this breathing process, and yes, there's a lot of suffering on the way, and some of it does not have to be such a painful process, because there is an element, a component of our conscious participation And the more we are conscious of the process that we're talking about right now, the more humanity can educate itself about where nature is taking us, which is a higher, more complex, more conscious level of connection between us, above our differences, without eliminating our differences. Very important. Using our differences in a complementary way, like this anglerfish, right? If we find the spiritual coupling, the correct spiritual connection between us, then we won't need any kind of suffering in the corporeal process. It will materialize in a beautiful, smooth path. That's the suffering and pain is only created because of the dissonance between where we need to be consciously, spiritually, and where we are.
So there's all kind of things that happen that what we do is we are experts at meaning humanity is very good at like slowing everything down and turning it into a problem. So the system is trying to give us an emotion. So let us try to look at things that are happening in order to receive an emotional impression, but not in order to get involved in the political bickering and back and forth, because it's all lies. It is all lies, and the solution will not come from there anyway. If your job is as a translator in Afghanistan, so do what you need to do. That's not the point. You don't just sit there and, oh, it's all in my inner emotion. No, you have to, if you're, whatever your life is, be that, do that. But if we're talking spiritually, all of these things, for example, let's look at a historical one just for a second. The Europeans come to South America. That huge continent now, almost the whole continent speaks Spanish. Right. A little bit that speaks Portuguese, but it's pretty much all Spanish, right? Why? Those were indigenous people, Mayans, Incans, all different kind of different cultures happening over here. And we could say, well, it's very horrible what happened to them all. But now they all speak Spanish. This thing, the creator, through Christopher Columbus, whatever, through Queen Isabel, whatever it was, comes over here and then comes out. And so if we can remove the same thing in the United States, there was Native American, there was Indians called living here, and the Europeans came over and killed many of them and all kind of things, take their land and whatever. But if we can just try and remove, as we want to look at things spiritually, let's just get an emotional impression from it and not put a whole historical story on it, because the historical story is just based on our will to receive. If we were dogs experiencing it, we'd see it one way. If we're this, we would see it. We don't really want that historical story. If you're a historian, learn the history. If you're interested in history, learn the history. If you want to have good conversations, it's all interesting stuff. But when we want to engage, this is what we started the show with, when we want to engage in spirituality, we have to understand the 99.9999999% that the creator is managing, and the small part,
very small,
where our action is, and most of our action is agreeing with what it's doing. So the coronavirus is coming. Okay, imagine the coronavirus is like the Europeans coming into South America. Okay, the coronavirus, but now the coronavirus is coming from some alien species, is coming to all of Earth at the same time, not just a European coming
or even if it's from a lab, it's it's coming from the natural program at the end of the day.
It doesn't matter if it's from a lab or from another planet, it's all the same system. So
exactly,
if you just take those stories away, we call it the creator, nature, whatever. So if we accept it properly, okay, this virus coming in, so it is giving us something is happening. Maybe we'll see new plants starting to grow. Maybe we'll see new fruits we never saw before as this thing starts to work itself into most. I saw you get excited about it, so maybe you can open that up. That 99.99999.
Yeah, I got it. Yeah, that inspired me, because I think that is such. I mean, look, we're working on this on a daily basis for years, but this is not an obvious thing at all. That people, I think that your initial instinct about free choice in the grand scheme of things is like, oh, I can just do all kinds of things that I want. What's freedom? Freedom is like doing stuff that I want. But really, free choice is something you need defined in a very, very specific way. And it's through identifying all those layers that are governed by nature. You're in your guts, and in the outside world, in your inner world and in your outer world. And then in between, somewhere in between, there's a very thin slit, a very thin opening, where it's mostly a conscious layer, where you can add something, where you can be something that you're not already are, designed by the forces of nature, or the weather, or the climate, or the politics. And that is spiritual work. That is the spiritual development. It's only in that narrow thin line. Anyway, so yeah, that was inspiring. Go ahead. You wanted to go in another place, right?
No, no, I would like to open this up a little bit more on where that is, and how to recognize where that is, because it takes a lot of time to, there's an expression in the wisdom of Kabbalah that everything is clarified in the thought. And I didn't really
Yes.
understand it for a long,
Mhm.
yeah, I didn't really understand it for a long time, because I thought that everything is supposed to happen in my heart. And I thought that,
Hmm.
thought is a result of my desires. Whatever I desire, my mind figures out how to satisfy that. So I didn't really understand what it means that everything is clarified in the thought. And I start to understand that the thought is, imagine that it's like, it doesn't mean about being smart intellectually or something like that. The thought, imagine it's kind of like a knife or something like that. You're going through life and you're saying, "No, that is not where I'm making my spiritual action. That is not where you're
Yes.
clarifying for yourself as you're going through life. What is the place? Okay, like just that. Where is it, through everything I'm going through in my life, where is the place that is I'm making my spiritual action? Because most of what is
Yes.
going on now is it's all him, or all the creator, or all the system, and I'm
Yeah.
just using my thought to just clarify
To
where in all.
plow through this forest of just lines of code, and then just become very, very focused and conscious on just being that observer of nature's work. The end adding my attitude to it, my partnership to it. That's a very, yeah. Why did we go so deep right now? I don't know how we're gonna go back.
No, we talked about the
The
99.99%
okay,
is.
I guess it's because of this. Um, Everything that happens, what happens to an individual in their spiritual path, is a replica, a mirror of what's happening to the world in its global state of affairs. So we in humanity, we're going through this process of trying to connect this way and this way and in another way and in another way, and we're trying to do business together, and we're trying to create different kinds of transactions of raw materials. We create salt as a means of preserving food, and then it becomes a currency. So then we understand that we can use salt to trade for other goods, and then we say, okay, let's upgrade the nature of the currency, and then we move to gold and to cash, and then we say, oh well, let's actually create a transportation system around the world where we can move all those things, and let's create an information system, where communication system where we can communicate, and the whole world becomes a globalized system. All of that stuff, all of that process, is the different pieces of the collective soul of humanity that are clarifying their manners of connection until they rise to a conscious spiritual connection together with nature's plan. And so it's happening in front of our eyes as a global process, but it's also happening in each and every one's individual soul. And it's the same dynamic. It's the same dynamic. This is what, Kabbalists refer to as three lines. How we always go to the left, and then we go to the right, and then we find the middle. We go then to a bigger left, a bigger step to the left, and then a bigger step to the right, and then we find a higher middle. And so that's a process that's happening both globally and individually. Yeah.
You're going back to the as far as light excels from darkness. So in order to perceive, reveal the light, we are revealing in actuality first the lack of the light. We don't have a vessel, we don't have a sense to feel spirituality. So what we start to do is we start to feel where it's not. And then from that's the meaning of the light excelleth from darkness. To in those empty places, from that we can start to begin to feel like, for what we were talking about earlier, that when you measure everything, even in this world, we can learn a lot from it. When we weigh something on a scale,
Right.
not a digital scale, we're measuring how gravity is pushing down. But gravity, we don't have anything to hold gravity. We can't measure gravity itself. So we measure how gravity is pressing on something to the degree of 10 kilograms or whatever. So electricity is passing through a wire. We have no way to measure the electricity, but if we put a resistor on and the electricity pushes it, we could say, oh, it's this many ohms.
Forget measure. We don't even know what electricity is. We only know it from its outcomes. Kabbalist Baal Sulam writes about this in the Essence of the Wisdom of Kabbalah. It's important to understand, because just like with electricity or electromagnetism, or we don't really know the essence of these forces. We can't get in contact with them directly. We can only measure them with a device, with a lac, with something that vibrates as a result of that unseen, invisible force. Same with what Kabbalah calls the creator, this governing force behind all of nature. You cannot measure it, you cannot sense it if you don't qualify a vessel to feel it. How do you build a spiritual vessel? Through light and darkness, plus and minus, going in and out. And in the context of global human society, it has to be diversified and mixified, integrated, right? We have to become more different and more globalized, more different and more connected. And now we've going into the point, this is the great transition. This is where we're going into in the 21st century. We're going into the stage where we are gradually getting into this process with our conscious participation, which has never happened before. So that's the exciting times that we live in.
Beautiful. So first of all, Haroon from Nigeria, hello. I haven't seen you before, and I see a lot of new names. Hey Raven and ARD. And so hello everybody. We see you all there. It's hard to we really try and listen to each other well, and it's hard to check all of the messages, but we see you all here, and we read them afterwards.
And we also see them in the where I'm looking here or here, have chats open, and
okay.
they're always
So as we wrap up here, listen. If you are a Taliban, and you're listening to our show, or if you are non-Taliban listening to our show, for the time being, because we remember from the perspective of nature, from the perspective of the creator, there is no time. From our perspective, everything is happening sequentially. So this week, if you're either Taliban or not Taliban, just be who you are. Just be how you're made in your society. But both of you, to our Taliban listeners and our non-Taliban listeners, let's also focus spiritually on the one place where we are all united. Let's see in that one place where we all take our lack, what we want to get from this story, from this news story, what we want to get from all of these things when we're thinking of the misery of the people who were in, the Indians who got the smallpox from the Europeans, and what kind of pillaging is happening in through Afghanistan. And what we want to take from this, more than the story that we're seeing on the news, is the emotional impression. We want to take that lack and we want to understand how, and start to feel how we can all bring that lack together with everyone else and present it and ask to the system that we want. What do we want? How do we say this correctly, Asaf? We want to.
We need to recognize, like, to drill deep into the most fundamental quality of our being, which is that this ego gravity that we live in, this constant force that necessitates us to think of ourselves. And by being aware of it, we can observe it from outside and just make a wish, build our desire. It's not like a childish thing to make a wish. It's building our desire, and desires are the only things it's the only thing that actually operates in the spiritual reality, on the spiritual level. So we want to build our desire, and even build each other's desire, to rise above gravity, in a sense, above our inner gravity, and feel that spiritual layer of connection between us above our different unique individual qualities. We don't eliminate them. We don't erase them. We're not talking about all human beings just, trying to picture all of us just melding and melting into this one melting pot, and nothing remains from us. No, that's where you lose consciousness. The whole point is we had to develop in this egoistic way, very distinct, very separate, in order to be able to grow with our consciousness and connect to each other in a new way, on a new level. So it's like a 2-level being that we become. On the one hand, we remain different and separate. And look what COVID is doing as well. Sorry, it all comes together into the same picture here. It actually helps us focus on that level of connection. Just the fact that we can't, be as freely physically with each other. And so that's where we want to be. We want to build this consciousness of connection in each of us and in all of us together. There's more, dude. There's just so much more that we just can't get into right now. We're gonna have to say goodbye, and maybe play a song, and then remind everybody that we're here every Thursday at 9 p.m. Eastern time, and
No, 2 p.m. 2 p.m. Eastern. 9,
did I
9
say
p.m.
9
Israel.
p.m.? Oh my God, I meant
2 p.m.
9, I
Eastern.
meant 9 p.m. Israel time, 2 p.m. Eastern time, which is more relevant for our listeners. Yeah, sorry for that.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks, everyone. Great to be together, Saf. Thanks, brother. And
Yes.
we'll see you all soon.
Thank you, everybody who was here. Bye-bye.
It's the story about one man in a master plan. You know it's a room seeking out my friends with the same goal. Reunite the pieces of the same soul, so one big soul. Create well is running dry, my life is on the line. If I had what to give and I knew who to give it to, I would change my ways if I only knew. It's a story about